Hi, Kim. Apologies for that.
You want to give a quick summary for the recording of what we're discussing?
Kim, can you hear us?
I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great.
Apologies. Thanks for your patience.
I think the recording is probably just silent for the first however
Yeah.
many minutes.
No doubt it was. Yep. Thanks. So we were just talking in public comment. Laura mentioned that she'd heard that someone was continuing to use the mud pond boardwalk that we closed. And so we just started a quick conversation about liability, what it means to close a feature when you know that you've done enough to close that an unsafe feature, and just options for getting that repair going. And I was just going to follow up and cap off that short conversation by saying the next step is to get out somebody to assess and give us an updated, accurate cost estimate. And I reached out to Timber and Stone again on that. Josh from Timber and Stone was the one who in 2013 went out and scouted that whole route and created what would be the route for the boardwalk, and then that was built by VYCC and maybe some other volunteers in 2014, I believe. So Josh has a lot of familiarity with the area, and I think could give us a very accurate.
So it's 11 years old, more long.
That's my understanding.
It's surprising it's in such bad shape after only 11 years. It should last longer.
And yeah, I don't want to hold you to those dates because you don't have it all in front of you, but yeah, that seems short. Anyway,
I'm pretty sure that's accurate.
That sounds right. It was built right before I joined the Conservation Commission, which is in 20. Oh, yeah,
I think you
right,
joined
right when I joined the
Yeah.
Conservation Commission, I joined it
Early
in 2008, so might be it's sort of that era.
Yeah, I mean, it's something to be aware of and consider. I think when you use natural materials, unless you're coating them,
Which
in
has its
some
own
chemicals
risks.
that would make them less natural. 10 years is about what you get for the safe life of a structure like this, I think.
Yeah.
And we're seeing that borne out by some evidence, so.
Okay.
All right, let's get to the minutes.
Kim, the other thing you missed is that the Allenbrook boardwalk, that the dangerous section has been removed and materials saved for later repairs.
Super.
All right, I don't have any comments on the minutes. Does anyone?
I have two comments. On the public comment from last week, I think the last sentence doesn't. It points out attention to reducing mowing and fertilizing town-owned land, but I think we decided we would talk about this in this, with focus on microplastic pollution, chemical pollution. So that sentence doesn't
Yeah.
really reflect the spirit of our discussion. I think we did mention there in the town plan, there is reducing mowing and fertilizing, that could be a consideration, but that wasn't gonna be the focus.
It's like
of
one
what we were
factor.
talking about.
Right,
Do you want to add a reference there to
To
turf
or
specifically, Lynn?
I would say with attention to macro and microplastic and chemical pollution, and also considering
Mhm.
the goal, the town plan to. I feel like the reducing mowing and fertilizing is sort of secondary to the discussion.
Well,
The
yeah, but
primary-
doesn't town turf greatly reduce mowing and fertilizing? I mean, that's what I took it as, right? I mean, wouldn't turf be? We don't need to.
Yeah, but I don't think that's the primary goal,
Okay.
why we're gonna talk.
I didn't think with attention necessarily established that it was the primary goal. It was just meant to imply that during the conversation is established,
Yeah, I think
why is this a topic that the CC would take up, and it was noted like we have this town plan goal. So maybe attention isn't the right word there, but with attention was meant to capture that this conversation is happening in relation to this town plan goal.
But it's not the primary reason we're bringing it up, like this almost implies like, let's put turf
Yeah.
down so that we don't have to mow and fertilize, which is sort of like, are we gonna like replace all the grass with turf? So I mean, that's sort of an extreme example, but that's what it, if you were just reading this.
Yeah, let's see.
Giving
Well,
it
I think
more-
that's. When you're reading it, right, that's an assumption, perhaps there's some better words that could
Let's,
make that less,
And
more neutral.
given the ambiguity there, can I propose we just strike out the last half of that sentence and just end it with fewer proposals in Williston, period? And then can just
Mhm, mhm.
strike out
I
the.
Make the same recommendation. I like that.
Sounds good.
I like that.
Okay, thanks, Lynn.
The other. Piece that I had was about the invasive species management and, I would just. I think what, isn't captured is just the spirit of delay and. Yeah, the necessity to act quickly.
I mean, the need for urgency.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I was gonna. Make this- No, go ahead, Kim.
Did David and Dave, did you see Chapin's email to the three of us yesterday?
Yesterday, no.
I did briefly this morning.
I'm wondering if we should discuss that with the whole commission, but in short, I think it seems like Chapin reviewed the minutes. Excuse me, sorry, I have like some illness. And felt like there were a lot of elements that were not captured that he expressed.
Okay,
I can read them, but I feel like
no. We don't have time for that.
Yeah, I would say my take on that is it's not consistent with the way that we take minutes to include that level of granularity.
Yeah.
And personally, I didn't see anything in there that wasn't, that felt like it was not alluded to in some way in, regards to the minutes, providing an overview of what was discussed and the main thrust of that. But I defer to, these are your minutes, right?
Yeah.
So
So if
you
we
want
have any
strike or miss
spec-
something, just like Lynn and Eric suggested, like these are your minutes, so feel free to propose anything you want.
Yeah, go ahead, Reed.
Yeah, I was just gonna suggest two changes that might stick with the level of detail that we've been going with on our minutes for consistency, but maybe address what Lynn was raising. One is in the first square sub bullet, the one that says town volunteer Chapin expressed. I think we could add to that bullet that he said that he was not going to be renewing his herbicide license, and therefore we are gonna have to hire out that particular service going forward. Because that was news to the commission. And then in the second bullet, add that like the sentiment that I was feeling during that meeting was that there's a sense of urgency, at least for me, and I was sensing from some other commissioners, a sense of urgency around this topic. The commission discussed the desire to learn about invasive management policies from peer towns doesn't carry sense of urgency to me. So I would want that bullet to say something like, given the sense of urgency, and I guess the way I put it last time was we were making a dent with what we were doing, and now we have a bigger challenge in front of us than without as much volunteer support. So something like, given the level of urgency, especially with some.
How about the commission expressed a level of urgency?
Sure, and in response, what are we gonna do in response? We wanna see how other towns are dealing with this, and develop plans is basically.
So I'll just point out that the next bullet is the commission acknowledges the need for a short-term plan to address hotspots and urgent concerns. So that was communicated in that summary, but if you feel like that particular point.
Yeah,
Needs to be
I don't know, when I read the whole section, I just didn't feel like. It didn't feel like the level of challenge that we're facing is captured, it's immense. If, depending on what we decide our goal is, if we decide that some invasive species we're giving up on and we're gonna focus on others, then maybe it's more feasible, but. You know, I've been out in the field. Working alongside Chapin many hours, and it's bad.
I mean, it's bad everywhere.
We're pretty far behind.
It's bad everywhere. So if we've been relying on Chapin as our sole
Yeah.
source, I mean, we'll have a continuation of this discussion once the
Yeah.
minutes get approved, but I think.
Okay, so for the sake of these minutes,
Yeah.
I would just like to have it include that Chapin confirmed he's not gonna be renewing his upgraders license because
Agree
that's a
with that.
significant item.
Yep,
And something in the bullet that the commission discussed the level of urgency and decided we would like to learn what other towns
sure.
are doing.
So, the third bullet there, town volunteer Chapin Keenor. Said that he will not be renewing his applicator's license and expressed the concern that these,
Sure.
et cetera, something along those lines.
Works for me.
Thank you.
Of course.
All right, thanks, Lynn.
I'll move approval of the minutes as amended.
Great, thanks, Reed.
Second.
Lynn seconds, all in favor of moving the minutes as amended?
Hi.
All right, no abstentions. Approved. Okay, this is a shorter meeting, because we didn't have any, applicants. We were discussing before the start of the meeting that if there are no applicants, for the next meeting, then we would prefer to just cancel the December 17th meeting and meet again on January 7th.
Can you define applicants? I mean,
If there's any like applications that need review or
Pre-app
by
or
us.
discretionary permit.
Yeah. So if it's only discussion topics, then it's, we'll take the week and move on.
sounds good.
Okay. Any other concerns about that?
No, I think that'll be a good time too to work on any sections that people decide to sign up for the annual report, which is on our agenda coming up here.
Okay,
Good idea.
great. So then that's the plan. If we do have any applicants, I'm expecting that would probably be one or none, and if there are, I might just suggest that we do it remotely to make it quick and easy, so that we can get it done and get out. Okay, so let's move on to the discussion topics then. ERF memo, final update. I'll take that one. We made some edits. Eric put in a little bit of work for Thanksgiving to smooth out my draft. It looked really good, and believe that it was submitted yesterday. Is that right, Dave?
Yes, actually, no, that was submitted on
Monday.
Yep.
Forgot what day of the week it was. Any sense on when we will hear back from the town on whether that recommendation is going to proceed?
It's a good question. So this Saturday is the budget marathon. Select board will be working through the binder of all the components of the budget. I know I'll be there in the morning. I think there will be an agenda posted. I believe it will be. I know I'll be there in the morning to talk about the general planning and zoning budget. And the capital component of that as well. I'm not sure about whether ERF will fall into that discussion, but my assumption is so because it's been proposed as a component of the general budget. So I need to get some clarification
Okay.
not be, but.
I guess that's the sort of main question is that last year Eric Wells didn't even include it in the recommended budget that went to the select board, and so I believe it was Reed and I went into the January meeting and advocated, and that's when we got the feedback that says you should proceed with the ballot initiative. So I think that's the feedback that we're looking for. Like, if the town adopts our recommendation and
Right.
includes it as part of the budget, great. Then we'll let the town staff represent that.
So I know that memo was transmitted to the select board with their packet of materials. On Monday, so. My assumption is that will be included in the topic conversation, but I'll try to get some more clarity
Okay.
on when.
Okay, can you follow up directly with me and
Yes.
and
Yep.
maybe the memo committee or whatever? Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It might just be a little tougher also because. You know, the state just announced a double-digit increase in property taxes again for
I
education.
know, I saw that yesterday too.
So, you know, it's just gonna make it tougher.
Yeah.
So,
Is that's driven by the education? Because
It's primarily, yeah, I'm not an expert on it, but a lot of it has to do with, insurance and, health insurance and stuff like that for staff,
state.
Well,
No,
not
for-
no, it's first teachers.
for teachers.
Schools.
Oh,
teachers and school
Yeah.
staff. Because the facilities are already
right.
owned, it's really just the cost to operate is so high in terms of people cost.
Right. Okay.
so it's just something to think about in case there's something we can say at the select board meeting. In response to that
Right.
increase.
Okay. Any other topics on the memo? I think that probably concludes it.
Yeah, thank you for doing that.
Yeah, it looks very
Got
good.
it in on time,
And-
2 years in a row now.
It's almost a trend.
Let's make it a third. Okay, annual report. We covered this very briefly last time. I think just long enough for me, for my primitive brain to figure out that it was a weird time frame and not actually calendar year. So, why don't we start with that? What is needed? And I believe that the annual report is meant to incorporate from June through May.
July through June. Yeah.
That is so close.
Yeah, it's fiscal year 25, so it is kind of weird. You're thinking all the way back to July 2024
Yep.
through June of this year of 2025, so including the ballot measure.
This is.
Yeah.
We do this every year.
Yeah,
Every year we say, why don't we do the annual report in
August.
June?
or July, yeah,
That's a thing.
July or
Very good
August would be
point.
a great time to. It's summer. I think it's because that's when everybody goes on vacation after school ends, and so it's just tricky,
Well,
but.
we also get a lot more applicants, I think, then too, so
Yeah.
our meetings tend to be like stacked a little bit.
But it should be on our annual rhythm to do it earlier, because by now everybody's like, wait, so it doesn't count any of the stuff we did the last 6 months.
Right. So who's the audience to this report? Like, why do we do it? Let's start with that.
The audience is I mean, we do it at the request of the. Town government to include the activities of the Conservation Commission in the annual report for the town. The audience is, so the audience would be the. Voters of Williston, I guess.
And they do read it, some of them.
So it's posted on our website, is it?
Yeah, it's handed out at the town meeting day.
Yeah.
As well, to anybody who comes in person.
Yeah, I would say that it's sort of twofold. One, imagine an average voter, citizen, community member who's not particularly engaged with town politics, who says, why do we have a conservation commission? and What do they do? This is a window that they have into what you do. And to a smaller extent, why it's worthwhile. You don't have to really dig into that typically in an annual report, but the accounting of like what we did this year is usually, to me, reads a little bit like these are our accomplishments, these are the things that we contributed of value. And the other thing I just mentioned is that while, we're creating a lot of digital materials frequently, digital materials don't last as well. Websites go defunct, web pages go down, files get lost. But
Physical copy.
annual reports get archived, and over the decades, those end up in the silver collections at UVM. So I know that I personally, when I've done projects that require some research into what's happening in towns and town forests and things like that, it's been really helpful to look at annual reports of towns to get a sense of, when was this thing established that wasn't documented really well? When did this occur? So it does become a bit of an archive record over time as well that will last.
Thank you, Dave.
I
And
thought about that piece.
I did just pull up, thanks to our helpfully redesigned website, we now have quick links to the annual reports on the WCC page. And it goes right to it, which is very cool. It is actually the whole town report, and it links starting on page 64 to the Conservation Commission's one-page annual report, and it's flanked on either end by other annual reports from the Historic and Design Advisory Committee, Planning Commission, Catamount Community Forest, so Energy Committee, so everyone's in there, and we're just nestled right in between them. And it takes a sort of familiar tone of here's what we do and why we do it, and
We took
bullets.
we took a different approach, I think, in 2024 than we had in previous years. And we did more of a bolded approach. In the past, we've been writing like a novel. And I think we realized that people weren't really reading probably all that detail,
Yeah,
and that we could capture more in a better format.
yep. I think that was also, I was realizing that, but I think it was also at the request of the town because.
It was long.
It wasn't just us, it was, I like, as I was scrolling through last year's report, they're all one page, so that's the, I think that was the request of the town was to. Limit the committee reports to one page.
Oh, yeah, I remember Simon working on that one.
So just for note, I'm screen sharing the FY 23 report. So this is the 2 years ago,
Yeah,
slightly longer format.
2 pages with images, more paragraphs.
I really think Simon wrote most of this. Am I misremembering that? I
He
feel
did
like
write most of it. He actually, I said, okay, he said, I have this written. I said, that's exactly what I would write. So
So you have a very clear memory.
I think
That's unusual.
the lift that we did was to help identify the topics that we
Yeah.
felt should be included in the
Right.
report. And last year, and I think we talked about this last time, I think our vision was to have this one-page report that was a concise summary and then have a longer version for the web. But I don't think we ever actually got that far.
yeah, the one page is probably fine
Yeah.
because we have the minutes.
Exactly.
And looking back at June 2024, we were talking about ERF outreach. The town plan is a big one, right?
Oh, yeah,
Reading that-
Town plan.
Reading that, I went through the minutes.
yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know when that was anywhere, one day.
2 weeks ago. Before I
Well
left.
done, subcommittee.
Wow,
Yeah.
Yeah, so we went through every single minute during that fiscal year and looked at the topics, and we made a list. We came up with 13
okay.
topics. And Dave and Dave have them, but
Do I? When did you send it?
the 21st of November, 4 p.m. But I'll just read it off real quick.
Mhm.
ERF funding, so these are things that we discussed and took action on during that fiscal year. So there were a couple topics that like they showed up on agenda, but we didn't do anything about it until this fiscal year, and so it's not on the list. ERF funding, obviously, town plan, obviously, that was a big effort. Jacob Krantz, and there was a number of on-sites and discussions and negotiations and stuff going on around that.
Yeah,
We couldn't remember whether Gary's retirement technically was in the previous fiscal year or this fiscal year, so that'll be something to clarify.
you know what, since I think we're gonna try and get the bench in this fiscal year, so, and I think that probably makes sense.
It was right around the change.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
I feel like his
September.
last official, and we can look at the minutes again, but I feel like his
Yeah,
last
it was.
official meeting was the last meeting of June, and then he came back for like biscuits or something.
Until, yeah,
Right, which was my first.
and yeah,
Right.
Lynn came for the first
Which
time.
was in July.
July,
So
okay.
what
So-
wrote that?
So we could put it in the next fiscal year if we also are gonna have more updates around it.
Yeah,
Vermont Master Naturalist Mud Pond Fern Study took place during that period. The changes to how we collect HDAs, we think it might have occurred in the 2024 fiscal year, not 25, but it was certainly the first period where we were doing it, where the town contracted for the studies. Conservation planner changes, Andrew to David, I think.
I don't think that needs to go in, does it? Doesn't.
Not necessarily.
Staff
It doesn't have to, but it occurred, it was in the minutes and everything.
Okay.
Glazer, HDA and grassland burn assessments, which followed up with a specific plan. Work, Allenbrook Bridge remained out of service for the full fiscal year. CVU student projects took place, town volunteer changes. And pollinator garden enhancement activities, and then finally at Tree Island or Abazee there were plantings and protections that took place. So those were the topics we came up with. Were you able to find the email, David?
Yeah,
Okay, so back to the habitat disturbance question, we were looking at the last year's annual report. We said that we began a review of the habitat disturbance assessment contracting process.
Yeah, I don't think
Say that
that
we began and finished the review. Also, I mean,
well, and we may decide that it's not. I don't know, it was a pretty significant policy change for the town, and it has seemed, at least from my perspective, to have an impact.
Mhm.
Something that we didn't, something changed.
how would we phrase that for the annual report though?
I think it would be a bullet, probably just a single bullet that said that the Conservation Commission and town staff implemented a new policy of the town contracting for habitat disturbance assessments to ensure objectivity.
Mhm.
And began to receive the first. And the practice of having the biologist present to the Conservation Commission, which has been huge too. We've learned a lot of things just from the presentations of the biologists about different areas of town.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds.
there's your bullet. Hopefully that was
Yeah.
captured.
Maybe on the recording, so I think what we need today, right, David, is just to. And I don't know if you can put that topic list from the email up on the screen, David M, is that easy enough for people to?
You emailed.
Yeah, so, just look, FY 25 annual report. It should pop up for me there. From
It was actually the first one to pop up.
November 21st.
Yeah, I think, here's the subject line. I don't remember us talking much about the volunteer challenges in this fiscal year. That was reflected in the minutes. Good point.
What was that?
Which one?
When did that come up?
The town volunteer challenges.
Like that came up in like July and August.
Yeah, it was in the minutes, I'm trying to remember what the context of it was, we'd have to go. Yeah. I'll have to go back and see, it appeared in the minutes.
Yeah, we like, yeah, it must have, because you started with,
we just started going through them and
The the minutes from the first meeting in July of 24, when we're.
it shows up toward the end.
Here is reads.
There. Yeah, it shows up as number 11, so I'm guessing it was later in fiscal year 24. Which was probably spring of this year. So I think the objective for today is to take this list and for people to sign up to write a bullet, take the title of it and write at least a bullet. And for anything that seems like it was pretty significant or big, we could consider having a paragraph, but most of these seem like they could be summarized in a 1 or 2 sentence bullet.
Yeah, I'll take Fern study. And
I would, great, cause I wasn't, but I would do ERF funding and Jacob Krantz. I could also do town plan, cause we spent a lot of time talking about the town plan that year.
Yeah,
So I'll take the first 3.
sure. If it's too much, I also can talk about the town plan. I ended up reading all the chapters and provided comments on all
Go ahead then.
no, I don't, there might be other things on here, like the HGA change. I could write that one since I just talked about it.
I think we should mention Dave, because people do ask, who's the conservation planner?
Oh, yeah.
Let's put that in the paragraph form.
In the
Yeah.
intro paragraph.
Yeah.
Intro paragraph,
Yeah.
okay,
Um,
who wants to write the intro paragraph? I could do it,
Let me ask this first, Dave, how do you see your role in this?
I see my role as backseat to non-existent.
Okay,
I know that it has occurred in the past that staff has.
Yeah.
Done some writing for this, but I've checked
Especially
it
the
with
short
other staff
stuff.
and that's not necessarily a policy amongst the town committees and my personal feeling is that, you know. Although in Williston, we, you know, the staff is fairly well integrated, I think it is important that. You know, you're a citizen advisory committee, this is your annual report, you know, everything should, the words and the choices should be from the committee.
well said,
Personally.
well said. So I agree with that perspective. I would be happy to try and write a couple paragraphs that sort of capture the general direction, including just the number of applicants that we received sort of outside of these types of things, and then we can follow it up with the short style bullets. I just need a due date and a reasonable time frame to actually put that together, because it's not gonna be tonight.
can we say, when do we need to submit our?
I'll find out what the due date is. I think it's good that you're
January 7th.
discussing this though, just because my guess would be. Yeah, I don't know, I kind of doubt it would be due before January 7th, given the holidays, I
think
feel
so.
like this usually gets.
Yeah.
Taken care of around that time, but I haven't been through this cycle yet, so I'll ask the question, I'll see what
Yeah.
the deadline.
I think the town plan
is.
doesn't even come out until all of the articles are like noticed and everything like that.
The annual report?
Yeah.
I think it comes out in March at town meeting. day,
Yeah.
Is like the release of the.
Right, so I think we probably have.
Get it to the printer.
Okay.
Right.
But I'm probably gonna get,
Full year.
yeah, I would say the 7th of January seems to me like a reasonable date which is our next meeting date, we think. To come with
Mhm,
our bullets and or paragraphs.
mhm.
I don't know what the best way is to consolidate them. So that somebody doesn't have to take 5 emails and piece it all together. I don't know, David, if that's something that you wanna do to create a document that we can drop our paragraphs into?
Sure, yeah, I can create
Is that a good,
a Teams document, that, or a document that's, yeah, on
Yeah.
like SharePoint and send that to everyone, so you have edit
if
permission.
you could create a landing place, I think.
Yeah.
I'd like to see if the commission's open to January 7th, having our bullets and paragraphs written into it.
Okay, are we gonna save Gary's retirement for next year though?
Yeah, let's save Gary's retirement for next year, and it sounds like the things that should be included in the opening paragraphs, if you're gonna write those, are David M. The transition from Andrew to David. And there was another one that seemed like it was,
I mean, I think the ballot initiative, Sean, is.
Oh, yeah.
the ballot
Front
initiative.
center first.
Ballot initiative is a major positive one, the
Mhm.
boardwalk being out at Ellenbrook for the entire fiscal year, I think also. It's big for the public, so I think it should be in our opening paragraphs. I don't think we have to go into a lot of detail about it, but just say that. It was out for the entire fiscal year.
Okay,
But that we're working on
With-
it.
Yeah, the only thing I would say on that is it really, it's not your fault in any way.
No, no.
right, that's what I
It's
struggle
really
with too.
Just,
Yeah.
Permitting and.
Yeah, well-
Like red tape,
Well, finances, permitting
Right.
and engineering were considered.
I would
The
say-
boardwalk remains
so,
impossible.
yeah, it's a good. There are many external factors, so my recommendation, just, you might not want to put that front and center,
No.
because it might input, some people might read that as like you were working on it, but you weren't able to finish it, kind of thing.
I
I think
agree.
it's okay to keep a little distance from that. So, but
I would just
That's
own
okay.
it and say, we worked on it, but it
But we
remains
didn't.
closed.
But we didn't.
We did, we had engineers.
The
out.
town had engineers.
Well, but we're the advisory body that decides what to do. I mean, if we say. We're gonna close the boardwalk permanently, the town wouldn't do that without the Conservation Commission saying to do that.
And we approved the engineering plans.
Yeah, I think we had,
We're just,
I mean, we may not have had any formal votes on it, but we did have a hand in advancing. The status of it, even though to the general Williston resident, it may not look like anything happened.
I feel like we've been advised of the progress, but haven't been involved in it. I mean, we didn't scope we got briefed on like what the plan was, we got updated on when the meetings were happening, but like we weren't. It's very different from, say, like the Glazer or not the Glazer, well, yeah, the Glazer, but very different from like Jacob Krantz, where we have been advising and providing recommendations to, it just feels very different to me.
So, all right, so I guess. Where else, because I agree that. I feel like Allenbrook Bridge should be acknowledged somewhere in the town.
Yeah,
report.
I agree with
Where,
that.
where else, if not in the Conservation Commission update, where else would it make sense?
I mean-
for the Allenbrook Bridge.
Also, I think that is like, if you were to look at the town website and like conservation areas that are like connected to our purview, I'm pretty sure that that's listed as like one of the 6 or 7. I think we have to put it in here. It's significant, and like if you were to search our meeting minutes, it would come up a number of times.
Of course. So what if we put it in the opening paragraphs as being, we were very closely involved in like the development by the town of like a replacement to the Allenbrook Bridge would remain closed throughout the
sure,
year.
yeah,
That
yeah, sorry,
We're not-
my phrasing, that. Obviously, we're not gonna leave with we closed it for the year, but.
right.
Ultimately, we're responsible for guiding town staff on the direction. And town staff's taking the steps in that direction.
I mean, again, I don't mean to quibble here, but like, I don't think we were guiding town staff on it. I think we were briefed. I think there's a big difference.
No,
I don't think that's true. I think we provide recommendations, which is, and we did do that, and that's our role. And this document needs to include the things we did that didn't go as fast as we would hope, right? Like, we can't just be like, here's the great stuff we did. We also have to be like, here's some things we worked on that like maybe everybody doesn't love the outcome of. Like, we do provide guidance, and we did. I know that, and I was gone for 6 months. Like, just the time that I was there, it came up. So
Okay.
I think it needs to be in there. That's my opinion.
Well, I think we can phrase it as provided feedback and guidance to town on development of repairs to Allenbrook Bridge, right?
Mhm.
And maybe I just didn't feel like I was qualified to provide that guidance, and that's why my personal memory of that is different from all of yours, and that's fine. But we can, if that's
Like,
something
I
we-
personally remember saying, I think we should strongly reconsider if we fix this bridge, and then Reed and I having a discussion about like the value of school children and like my feelings about its long-term sustainability for water. So like, I'm sure that that at least one conversation happened that was like, maybe we should
Sure.
weigh in on it this way.
Sure.
Yeah, and we can wordsmith it once we get something into the document. Somebody can be in charge of the editorial duties to go through and make sure that the
Mhm.
tone and language is consistent. and all
Yeah.
that. Great.
Okay, last thing I would possibly flag, we're gonna go through and assign these
Okay.
further topics, but it does the HDA contract change warrant being in the opening paragraph, so it's a bullet.
I think it's a bullet,
Okay.
personally. I don't know if anybody else
Anyone
disagrees.
disagree? Anyone else on that?
I think it's fine as a bullet. I mean, we had it in last year's report.
They were considering what to do with it.
Okay.
Yeah. And I guess we could go back and look through the minutes to figure out when it actually was approved by the. So I don't even think it was a town. Was it the town or was it Public Works? I don't recall how we went from concept to implementing it.
I believe the first one was the first
Oh, I remember the first one.
right?
No, it was, I don't remember the person's name, but it was a challenging one.
It was south of the highway, right? It was.
Oh, was it that one? Up on
Yeah.
we don't
but-
need to get into this.
But, it was,
It
yeah,
was south of the
I
highway.
can't remember when it was, but I remember the project.
I think, well, we're not gonna mention projects, obviously, so the bullet should probably just be, this was the first year where we started reviewing contracted HDA assessments. Who wants to write that?
I'm writing HDA unless somebody else wants it.
Okay.
Great, moving conservation planner to the paragraphs. Glazer HDA and grassland bird assessment. Was it Gary?
Yeah,
Here is working on it.
he was our specific plan representative, but the entire commission reviewed the HDA and grassland bird assessment and provided recommendations.
You wanna do that one, Reed?
I can
No.
do it, I just
So
don't
just go back and
remember.
look at the
I just
minutes.
have to look at the minutes,
Yeah.
I'll do it,
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, it's in the minutes. We're not creating any
great.
content. We're just
yeah.
upcycling what we have.
All right, CVU student projects.
I can take that one.
Thank you. Town volunteer challenges, did we decide that that's staying in?
I would just, somebody should just read the minutes and decide what, if anything, makes sense to include, or if not.
Yeah, when did that conversation start?
It's low on this list, which we were going in chronological order, so it means it was probably spring 25.
That could be just, I can do that one. It could just be a simple bullet that challenges were raised around
Sure.
volunteerism in town and ability to maintain their invasive species management projects.
Hmm.
That sounds great. Write it down.
Pollinator garden enhancement.
I can do that one, as long as,
It's in the minutes too. Yeah,
Yeah.
excellent. And you can also check
And-
with to
Yeah.
Deb and see, what stands out for her in that period.
Abyssini Manahanic planting and protection.
I can do that one too.
Well, excellent.
Mhm.
All right, this is our list.
Cool.
I will circulate this.
Excellent.
So the due date is to Dave Maroney by what date?
By January 7th, so we know what gaps we have. If somebody doesn't get done, somebody else needs to pick it up or whatever.
Okay.
I think that should be fine, but I'll confirm.
And yeah, and if there's a deadline sooner, then we can.
Am I allowed to just email everyone back this list?
Sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah,
it's not a
yeah, in
discussion.
terms of email, like you can communicate, disseminate information. Talk about scheduling, logistics, you can't have substantive discussion with the quorum present. Great.
I didn't get assigned anything. Do you want me to take a final copy edit to like smooth it out for?
I was gonna say, if you'd be the editor, Kim, that might be great.
Yeah. I'll be done with the semester, so I can do this, I can back clean it.
Okay. Thanks, Kim. Then I will send this all to you right now. The next topic that we had, I don't seem to have Lynn, I don't have your email in this inbox in mine. What's your email?
LYNNZBVT@gmail.com.
Thank you. Is that right?
Yes.
That's weird. I wonder why. Yeah. Okay, the next topic was to discuss a further conversation of the invasive species.
Oh, are we skipping over your active strategy?
Sorry, there was another one? I thought invasive species was the next one.
Yeah,
Oh, ERF active strategy, that's right. Yeah, I think read that was.
Time box, like 10 minutes, is that
Sure,
good? And then we can
yeah,
know more than that.
let's do that.
David, do you want to share yeah, it's like here. Do you want to show the document you and I were
Sure.
starting? So David and I, we had met a few times and given a brief readout to the group about the passive strategy and looking at the different criteria that we were using to rank conservation priority on our prioritization map. We're kind of setting that aside for a second. I think our where we stand on that is that we need to do some work to essentially plug in some new factors and see how the map changes and see if we feel like that's moving us in the right direction or whether we want to rethink any of that. But while that's paused for a second, because our current map is pretty good for prioritization, we are started thinking a little bit about an active strategy. David Westman had raised like, okay, we're starting to get some significant funding for the ERF now, so we should be thinking more about what we're going to do with it, right? And so this is one way that we can act on it, is to not wait for land to come up for proposed development and instead think about, well, if we were just to go out and propose that something be conserved, what would we want to do with that? And it might be different slightly than just looking at how dark a green something is on the map. Because that's a very like 1,000-foot view of things. And I think there you said, if we just go around and just like say, oh, well, this one's dark green, that's number 1 on the list, we'll just conserve that one, and here's number 2, and here's number 3, you end up with like a patchwork of conserved land that's actually not functional. And so sometimes it's more impactful to approach it with a goal in mind and then begin looking at conservation projects that move us toward a particular goal. And so the different pieces of land that get conserved are connected in some way. And so we sat down, I think it was 2 weeks ago, a week ago, and looked at, must have been 2 weeks ago now, to look at what examples could David and I come up with that would get this group thinking about active strategies. These are not to say that we think these are the ones that we're not advocating for these. These are just examples to get people thinking, and that way, after this meeting, everybody can decide whether they have an active strategy that they want to pitch to the group. And then we can decide together if we want to work on one or more than one active strategy. And so we put a few on the screen here to help you think about what an active strategy is and how you might put it down on paper for the group to consider. So first one here, an example would be, okay, our goal is to maintain an excellent crosstown trail. If that is our goal, then we would look at, well, where do we believe it's feasible for that crosstown trail to go? Where do we already have easements? Where do we have gaps in our easements? Where do we think we need to apply different tools? So, implementation could look like repairing and improving what we already have. Looking at rerouting sections that are not gonna be sustainable in the long term, or that can't handle additional traffic. If we were to start, for instance, advertising, hey, we want, people should be doing our crosstown trail, it's something we've invested in, here's how you do it, then it might increase usership. And then we ended up to look at the acquisition of either land or easements to connect the remaining pieces, or to do those reroutes. We might need to get, an easement on an adjacent parcel, because similar to the vast situation with the Yandell family right now, like, okay, well, we have a problem with that section of trail. What can we do about it? Maybe we can reroute the trail a different way. So that could be an example of an active strategy, is that we're gonna try to maintain and maintain and enhance a crosstown trail. So that would be more of a recreation type active strategy. And then there's a couple examples here of more like ecological one. So we could say that one could be protecting the glacial spillway. I don't know if you want to talk about this a little bit, David, and kind of how you thought of it.
Sure. Well, first of all, that was a great introduction. Yeah, I think all of these, you can think of it like a conservation campaign. Like there's an active goal in mind, and what are the steps that lead from that goal? And so we've already had conversations about how recreation can be a really galvanizing force for a campaign of that type. And as Reed said, another organizing factor is ecological protection. Let's protect the most unique natural areas and conditions in Williston. Many of those have already been identified. We have them on Williston's official map of unique natural communities. And so, for example, if you just picked one of those, let's
Is my shagbark hickory forest on there?
Yeah.
It certainly could be. So, just as an example, so one of the unique natural communities in Williston is the glacial spillway. This is a geological feature that, during a particular phase or transitional phase between glacial lakes, the glacial lake drained, the major interior glacial lake in Vermont drained through Mud Pond and through what became Sucker Brook, and created this big washout area, which is now an active wetland component of Sucker Brook. And so it exists down here. A portion of that is on the already conserved McKay Farm, but there are a number of adjacent parcels or sections of parcels that could be pursued in terms of completing the protections or strengthening the protections for this large wetland complex that exists. So that's just one example. If you zoom in on something that we already know is a unique natural feature, can we build out from what is already conserved and further protect these, potentially get access? This is an example of a natural feature that, although there's some conservation that has been done, there's no way to get there and really appreciate it for the public. So could that be a component of it?
It's also like a natural history and education sort of lens too. Most people living in town probably have no idea that we have a place that a major glacial lake drained and left really interesting geological evidence behind, as well as the ecology that's there now. So that's interesting.
So that's just what would that campaign look like? Could be identifying opportunities and reaching out to landowners that could potentially play a role in strengthening those conservation for a certain feature, acquiring easements or land, and raising public awareness, and potentially looking at public access.
So we don't need to read through all of them, because I want to take questions and ideas from the group, but you can just read the titles on the remaining ones. So you could also look at headwaters for some of our streams and brooks and things like that. You could look at road crossings is another topic we've talked about in the past, especially around the tier 1, tier 2 road crossings and significant wildlife habitat areas, looking at neighboring towns and trying to find out how can we conserve land that will add to the value of what our neighboring towns are conserving. So these are just,
Right.
to get you thinking.
And I'd say that it can also, right, some of these are rather lofty. And they can also be very focused. For example, like if it was a high priority, like a whole campaign could be create public access for a place that doesn't have public access, like create public access for Brownell now. And that would lead
Right.
to a whole exhaustive search about what are all of the possibilities that exists and where might we need to leverage ERF funds to make the best possible option happen, based on what partners might be willing to cooperate or participate.
I will say that as a geomorphology geek, I love the idea of the glacial spillway as an example, but to me, that's like maybe a 10-year project, and if ultimately we're still on that razor's edge of getting public approval of the ERF funds, I do feel like we gotta show the public that we can put the money to use somehow, like early. Like if you think about this as a long campaign, we want to create a sense of investment in that campaign and some early successes, show people this is what we're doing with it. I think will help that move forward. Yeah, well,
Yeah, I agree. That's why I think the crosstown trail is perfect. Because as we're going toward that goal, which may take a while, getting easements, and planning reroutes, we can improve the derelict infrastructure, which why have a trail if we can't use it?
Mhm.
And what's really cool is that the trail does have this crazy amount, it's a dense till area from Mud Pond where the spillway went through, and you could even talk about that at Mud Pond and talk about the spillway and have maps. Sucker Brook, there's a movie on our website about Sucker Brook and about the geology and human settlement patterns. Which is pretty fascinating. There are mills in the woods that you can see, so. And it's just, this trail goes from this really, it's from Sucker Brook all the way to a wetland at Mud Pond. It just covers everything. So just saying, that's why that could be the focus.
I agree. I think that's a great idea, something that would engage and be an active recreation opportunity for people in the town and beyond. I think for something like that, it would be important, but well, first to acknowledge which components of developing a cross-town trail could be used or with ERF funds versus other funding. So like the first bullet there, repair and improve derelict infrastructure. As I understand it, the ERF funds cannot be used for that type of work.
Nope.
Otherwise, we're just using
It would be
for the
combining.
Allen Bridge and be done with
Yeah.
it. But obviously the third bullet, yes. And yeah, I don't think they could be used for the second bullet either.
Well, with respect to that, rerouting some of the sections would most likely require some of
New
the
easements.
most challenging to upkeep would require easements or working with landowners, which is the reason. But you're absolutely right. The reason we just put the bullet points down in this was to reflect, okay, if
This
you're
would take-
doing goal oriented.
Yeah.
You know,
I think that's
campaign,
great.
yeah, it's just kind of like, how would you move forward? And then you're right, at some point, the ERF would come into that.
There's almost a benefit there that it's not all from the ERF because it allows you, like to your point, David, you want it to be visible to the public what's going on. And even if you're just negotiating, let's say like an acquisition of an easement or something to reroute a section, if you're using our trail maintenance budget to fix up the other parts of it on either end, people can see that's a visual change.
let me say something to that, and then Laura, I think that you've got one of three options if we go that approach, and we don't need to decide that in this meeting. Brownell, Big Bend, trail improvements. Like those are your
What's
three
the third one?
trail improvement. Oh, trail improvements, okay. Right? That's what would be visible, but you've got two massive pieces of land, Brownell and Big Bend, that would be brand new to 99% of the town. Like that would, if you could provide access to those two places, either one of those two places, I think that is to me a huge win.
Mhm.
But also, you know, we do have, if we can connect those trails, if we can connect a long continuous trail, I think that would also be an equivalent win. Sorry, go
I was
ahead.
just thinking the crosstown trail could be sexy enough for help with grant money too.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Contiguous trails are
Right.
Also, there's a lot about equity of access, and so I put in the top corner park and ride piece, because if you were to go from Sucker Brook and connect it down to the park and ride, you would connect
Perfect.
all the growth center with access without driving to be able to. But you could
Yeah.
bike from the growth center to a place that you park your bike and hike, or like there's,
Right, yeah.
so basically like looking at equity. Sorry, Kim.
No, I just want to say, like, I think I agree with you 100%, and I think that's really important, and I wouldn't want to see that piece lost. I think that, like, you know, there was, whenever we looked at where all the trails are around town, that part of town is underserved in that way. And so yeah, it's just a
Mhm.
note to be like, yes,
I'm very
agreed,
car
check,
oriented,
check,
right?
check.
Like you have to drive if you want to go to a hiking trail.
Right.
And anything we can do to remove that barrier, and parking is always our biggest headache, right? You think about it, Sucker Brook. Parking is a headache. Mud Pond. Parking is a headache. Like
Right.
everywhere from Brownell Mountain, we want to put something there. We have nowhere to put our kids. Like everywhere we go, we're like, we can't park people. Well, maybe the problem is people need to drive and park in order to go to the trail.
So good discussion. What more do you want to hear to sort of continue ideating on at an active strategy?
I think it would be good for us to have this on a future agenda, and for folks, a lot of ideas came out today, some support for things that are already on the list, but I also wonder sometimes there's a great idea that's just like under the surface and hasn't come out yet, so maybe folks can, if we can have it on a future agenda, so that people can come with any other ideas they have, or if you really feel strongly about one of these and you have ideas on how to polish it or improve it, so that we can get to where the group wants to consolidate it, coalesce around a particular.
I think an active, the way that I would see this going forward is that if we do coalesce around an idea, whether that's a big trail connector, or even if we just put like 4 things together and we say, well, what's actually feasible, right? Is a big trail that connects feasible in the short term, or is providing, like, is acquisition of one parcel at Brownell more feasible?
Yeah.
Like, I think that's
Yeah.
where we would like to go in the discussions, you know. I personally think that a quick win would also secure the future of ERF funding for the long
Yeah,
term.
Brownell's a great call, because that wasn't
That's
on our
true.
list, and it addresses multiple goals, because we're having so much trouble maintaining Sucker Brook Factory Hill, because there's just so much traffic. And it's the only overlook type hike really that we have in Williston, except for at Catamount. And so I think it also takes pressure off of other infrastructure.
Yeah, and we have talked about that new parcel, right, that came up for sale.
At Brownell?
Yeah.
It just sold,
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. I think 2 weeks ago, for a very large sum for an undeveloped property.
Okay.
but if it were to come in for a development proposal, then we would want to be ready with our strategy. Say, great, we would like to work with you on how we provide access to Brownell.
Oh, right.
Right.
Good idea.
Yeah, acquiring the land itself is one route that tends to be the most expensive route. Acquiring easements is a lot cheaper. So, but if we don't have a plan in place, if we haven't gone out and kind of figured out what we want, then it's really hard when it comes to us for review to have a clear vision of what we want to do.
Yeah, an easement for a parking spot would be nice.
Right.
We're gonna need more than one.
Yeah.
One spot.
Oh, yeah,
We'll need a couple.
Okay, so I'm just seeing the interest of
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
We're over time.
Jump to a short conversation on the last topic, maybe. we'll move this to a future.
I mean-
turn to on a future conversation.
Yeah, thank you, guys. That was really excellent and a great discussion, so look forward to more of it. So the next topic was the town invasive species management strategy, a continuation from the last meeting. I'm sort of left in, honestly, the same place I was on the topic before, is like, you know, of the bridge repair. I'm not really sure where we sit in the realm of this, like. I agree, there needs to be an invasive species management strategy. Who else but the Conservation Commission is responsible for that? But like. This was raised to us as an issue of a volunteer has no longer been. Sort of given the resources that he felt he needed. He's no longer a volunteer with the town. So now our entire invasive species management strategy was based on one singular volunteer, so like. And he was never under the oversight or purview. I mean, that was the first time I think Chapin came to a WCC meeting that I've been in.
No, I mean, he's been providing reports annually for, I wanna say like 1 years.
Mhm.
And coming and
Great.
presenting what he's been doing and asking for guidance from the Conservation Commission about where to prioritize work.
So I'm just left with like. Where does this fall for us?
Yeah,
If anyone has any answers or insight into like where we start with that. Like, what is our fundamental like authority or sort of power reside here?
We could start with trails.
Well, I mean, can we start
Yeah.
with recommending that the town have a plan? I mean, that seems then
Yeah.
basic, but like, it doesn't have a plan. That I know of,
Yeah,
and we don't, I think it's mostly existed within Chapin. And it needs, there's always a danger when one person is doing something anyway, so maybe that's where we start.
we've also had 4 conservation planners over the last 5 years. I think it was 5 years, and I'm trying to remember when Melinda transitioned. But that's just to say that I think David's comment about like. How have we worked with town volunteer with Chapin, who was leading the invasive work? It's largely been the conservation planner and Chapin, and then Chapin coming to the Conservation Commission meetings periodically to say, you know, based on working with the conservation planner, this is what's been accomplished, this is what I recommend working on. Am I good to continue doing these things? And there's just been a lot of turnover, which makes it feel like it's disjointed. But I think that ultimately that last meeting we talked about, David said that we kind of know. But we kind of already know what the short-term and long-term challenges and opportunities are. We just need to put them down on paper.
Yeah.
And so what I was interested in, the reason I asked for this topic to be on the agenda today was I feel like we need to pretty quickly put together a short-term plan. Because if we want to do anything in the next 6 months. Then it's gonna be another month before we really would start doing anything, and it's a tough time of year to actually do invasive removal, but it's a great time of year to make a plan for what we're gonna do so that we can have.
so Reed, who would do the plan? Who would actually be doing the implementation?
That right now,
Sorry, do you mean build the plan
No.
or implement?
I mean, we could write a plan. I mean, there are experts in this room who could do a good job of writing a plan and identifying, but who would actually be who would be the one responsible?
That depends on the components of the plan.
Yeah,
like probably the conservation planner would be sort of coordinating, implementing the plan. That could mean identifying and supporting volunteer work. It could mean working with contracted, establishing contracts to get stuff done. So we've had Williston Valley Park District do invasive removal before. There are other options there too.
Is there anything in the new town plan referencing invasive species management?
Yes.
Great, we don't need to find it, I just wanted to confirm.
I remember us talking about it this summer. I don't remember how detailed or lengthy it is. Yeah.
I wanna echo Lynn's comment. I think Lynn is really right. I. And also thinking back to a comment Eric made last time, she said Williston is really a planning town, right? In many ways, which is, how do you, with everything that is not considered a core service, like emergency management,
Mhm.
fire, and police, how do you elevate those issues to a higher level where action can flow or funding can flow from the town infrastructure? And one of the ways is to get something in the town plan. And there is you did that, there's a bullet in there about, managing invasives. But in a more concrete way, I think from what I've seen, it's, you have a plan that recommends action and funding be applied. And then you can put that plan in front of the select board and say, this is what we want to do, this is how we want it to play out over the next 10 years, and these are the resources that are needed for that. And then that creates this infrastructure for which it becomes possible to request funding on a yearly basis in a really granular way. An abstract request like we really urgently need to treat invasives becomes a concrete operational process which can be integrated into this town infrastructure. So I think it really flows from that. And I'd say in terms of your tools for getting there, certainly you could write a plan. The Conservation Commission has done that with management plans in the past for towns, but or for town properties, the other major tool that is often rolled out, at least from what I've seen, is to hire a consultant. That's what Catamount has been doing. I think the third way to go is to work with me on sort of putting together a internal plan, and that could certainly work for a short-term plan. It could even work for a long-term plan, but
Bandwidth's gonna be the issue.
yeah, bandwidth is just the issue. It's how,
I believe that
yeah.
we know enough to put together a short-term plan working with you. And that means it doesn't take us long. And that a long-term plan, we should be hiring a consultant who, this is what they do. They help you figure out where to spend your money and time, because you could just work all day long every day and like not actually accomplish your goals. And when I met with David a couple weeks ago about financial stuff, maybe actually a month ago at this point about financial stuff, I wanted the amount of money we were putting in for into the bucket that can be used for invasive management to be larger for the next fiscal year, which begins July 1st of the coming year and goes through June 30th of 2027. We have $5,000-ish, something like that, right? Added to it roughly.
That's what's been requested to elevate it, but some of that is really just to cover the trail management need.
Sure, yeah, so we have maybe $5,000 from July 1st of this coming year to the following June. That's not, that $5,000 doesn't go very far, so I want to ask for more money than that, but we can't because we don't have a plan.
Right.
If you don't have a plan, you don't have any way to justify the funding, so a lot of it has to do with the funding cycle, and we are gonna need a long-term plan before the next, in my view, before the next budget proposals go forward, so that we can actually know what we need and put it in there. That's where I'm on a long-term plan, but the short-term plan, I think we can probably find ways to work within our means. And leverage volunteer support where we can to do some short-term stuff. Like if we have very specific things that we want to do. If they're manual removal, it's just a matter of activating people to go on trails and say like, all right, who wants to start at the Taco Sucker Brook and walk down toward the trail and have some sort of training on how to properly identify so that we're not pulling native stuff. But you should go down and you're gonna remove stuff that you can remove, and you're gonna flag stuff you can't remove, and then a contracted person can come out and take care of that stuff efficiently.
Laura, do you have a comment? Or were you just?
Yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say. I'm willing to, because I used to do this with volunteers at Catamount, and. We used to go out and I used to give walks showing people what the invasives were, and I was licensed for a while. And I've been thinking about this for years. I could help work on a draft and get it
That would be
Dave and,
amazing.
yeah,
Yeah, I think you're totally spot. We talked about it last time. We're totally spot on with the trails thing, and then there's also like a species perspective. Like certain species are really hard to contain once they get going.
right, like knotweed, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like there's
So-
like geographical decision making on the short-term plan, and then there's like
Mhm.
species.
Thank you,
management.
Laura. And so I think that this helped answer at least a few questions for me, and sort of for the record, I'll just say what I'm hearing out loud, which is that we're within our responsibilities of the WCC to have a short-term plan that sort of falls within our sort of normal jurisdiction, that we can coordinate some of those short-term activities with the existing planner. We don't have to go to the select board for special approval of that
Yeah.
type of coordination. The only thing we would have to go to the select board for would be a larger plan that maybe required either additional responsibilities to the planner or additional funding to allocate for, say, like a permanent invasive species management,
Like a budget line item and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
similar to or larger than trail maintenance.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We can't rely on trail maintenance funds to pay for invasive
Mhm.
species management.
I just think it's really important to, I know we're not pulling up the goals, but there's at least two. One says evaluate and develop an invasive plant species management plan that addresses ecosystem imbalances that species are responding to and filling those niches. It's listed as short-term and responsibility of Conservation Commission. As well as partnering with Public Works and Parks and Rec. And then there's another one that's more, another short-term goal that's 1.1.7 that says develop a volunteer policy and program system to implement the goals of the plan, such as invasive plant management.
Yes.
So there's two, one is around volunteering and one is around just like having a plan at all, and both are listed as short-term goals for the Conservation Commission.
So timeframe for Laura, we'll work on this in the winter and
Mm-hmm,
have something ready to go in the spring.
definitely,
January 7th.
Yeah, we can absolutely do
Yeah.
Stacking that January 7th.
Welcome to the new year.
Yeah. I mean, I think that seems reasonable.
I think January is sometime in January, Dave.
Sometimes.
Yeah, I can show you kind of some of the materials that I've already put together.
That's
related to
great.
This, and we can, collaborate.
Maybe we can get together in January.
Yeah, it's
I would be interested in, as far as like first scope of work, like what are these hot spots that have been talked about? Like we've heard some areas floated around, certainly trails, certainly publicly, accessed spots, but like where are the hot spots? And what species and as a not a expert, what does the remediation even look like for those areas,
Well, also surveillance for species as they pop up, because that's where you get your most
Sure.
bang for your buck. If you pull one poison parsnip off the roadside, then like potentially you're preventing a lot of plants the next year, so.
Mhm. The
That-
seeds live or are viable for about 7 years. And love disturbed soil.
Yeah, so having surveillance is
Mhm.
like, I think, an important part of the plan. So if we just put out fires, like, oh, there's a bunch of whatever at this place, and then we're ignoring the one single plant over here.
You're looking for
Yeah,
matches,
we
not
just-
just fires.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So we're committed that we'll write a short-term plan that. Thank you to Laura for putting together some ideas, and we'll read and Dave, coordinate with Dave. That all seems reasonable, and we'll start there.
Great.
Okay,
Thanks for discussing.
Thank you.
all right, I think that's it for our agenda topics. There's no applicants coming to us in December. We'll meet again January 7th.
Thank you.
Have a great
Have a
holiday.
great holiday.
Yeah.
Great holiday.
Happy birthday, Kim, this month.
Thank you.
You mentioned it last time.
Some
Can
people
I just
remember.
tell
birthdays.
you that like everybody forgets because it's the 23rd? And like sometimes I'll call a parent